Welcome to the Backyard Professor live show. Here we are, Sunday, March 23rd, 6 p.m., 2025, and we are going to talk about aliens and communicating with us. First off, I would like to share what I consider to be very exciting news, very interesting news. I got my C-Star S50. Oh, and this is it. This is the little baby. And you go, that is not a telescope. Yes, this is a telescope. And it's a beauty. I mean, even someone who knows nothing about astrophotography can take photos of the night sky with the DSOs, the deep space objects. They call them DSOs. Finally, I got a clear spot in the sky last night. Yesterday, it was blowing at 50 miles an hour. It was absolutely horrendous. It was overcast, cloudy, partly cloudy, and just terrible. I took it out to try to get some scenery, and I did get some ducks. Let me show you how this. I am about 100, maybe 120 yards away from these ducks. There's no sound. I turned the sound completely down. And this is what the C-Star, from where I was, from the distance I was, these ducks were just basically like little pebbles. I was far enough away that I couldn't distinguish them hardly at all. I popped this C-Star on the trunk of my car. It does have a short tripod. I wish it was a longer tripod, but I get it. They wanted to keep the price down, just $500. And this is what it'll do in scenery mode, which is exciting because I live in a very good area where I do have the capability, the possibility of getting some deer, elk, moose, Rocky Mountain goats and sheep, bighorn sheep, eagles, hawks, all kinds of really cool wildlife. And this is one of the, I live by the Snake River, and there's lots of swans and Canadian geese and regular geese, lots of ducks. This is actually just around the corner from me in our neighborhood. It looks almost like I'm out in the wilderness. Kind of cool. But I was tinkering with the manual focus. This C-Star also has an automatic focus, which is really cool. But it's got a triple lens system that helps keep down aberrant, what do they call it? Chromatic aberrance or something like that. It keeps the colors from getting muddied up, etc. So that's really good video. I'm very, very happy with that. I was quite interested to do this. The app on the app on your telephone is what runs this telescope. And when I went out last night, it was very, very cloudy. But in the south and west, there was a streak of black. The sky was open. And lo and behold, I did cast mine eyes upward and forward, and I saw the great heavenly constellation of Orion. So I was able to, for 1 hour and 12 minutes, capture the Orion Nebula. I wanted to give it enough time so that it will, what this thing does is it takes 10-second pictures. That way it doesn't get star streaks. The stars stay as pinpoints. The rotation of the Earth does not affect the picture at 10 seconds. It does have equatorial mode now. I think I need to download it, and I will get equatorial mode where I can take much longer exposures, but it works really well for 10-second shots, and it will take a picture every 10 seconds till you hit the stop button so that you get about, 6 pictures a minute, 360 pictures an hour. So I had over 400 what they call publications, pictures, and it automatically stacked them into the Orion Nebula. And I want to show you that picture. This is my very first capture. There is no post-production. Now, against the myth that even the professionals only take photographs with their equipment and they don't monkey with them with software and all, that's pure bunk. Everybody uses post-production. I will be using post-production as well once I get the downloaded software. I don't have any. I don't have a clue how to do it. Couldn't tell you anything about how to improve the picture, but here is my very first astrophotograph with my C-Star S50 of the Orion Nebula. And I have to say, without question, I am completely thrilled with this telescope and its ability to not only track the object in the sky that you're wanting it to take pictures of, but doggone. Now, the park I went to wasn't really super dark. It had one of those, big park lights on. So there was a little bit of light pollution. I had a tough time seeing Orion with the naked eye because of the light pollution. But this C-Star has a light pollution filter in it, and it kicked it on. And that's the photograph that I took. Now, I don't care who you are. That's a thrill to be able to do that. I am just really, really thrilled. There are tens of thousands of celestial objects that are pre-programmed into this telescope that it will find at the push of a button. And if it can't video it, if it can't take pictures, because of the weather, it will tell you that, which is just mind-boggling. You kind of go, wow. So it only showed me 6 celestial features that were available last night out of about 75 that it had in its program for last night. It only showed me 6 that I could legitimately take pictures of, and this was one of them. So I was thrilled. This is the middle star. See that lower star there in the lower left? That's the 3rd star in the sword of the constellation of Orion. So I'm having a fun time with this. I was about an hour and a half outside. I actually video record looking for the UFOs with my binoculars also, and I will show this photograph again with that video. I had a wonderful time video session while this was being produced. The cool thing is this will show you the picture on your phone as it is taking the 10-second clips and as it's stacking them. So you only begin by seeing just a blur of the middle white part of that nebula. And then after the next 3 or 4 pictures, you begin to see that little red spot up above the main nebula with that little white star in it, straight up by that dark cloud. You begin to see that. And after 15 or 20 of them, you begin to see the shape and size of the nebula, etc., etc. And you see a few stars. Through time, the more pictures that it stacks, the more clear, the more colorful, the more details it gets with the gas clouds, the stars, etc. And it will even discriminate and help pick out whether a particular picture is good enough to put in the stack, or if a satellite went streaking through it or whatever, then it will discard that picture automatically. And they call this a smart telescope for a reason. So I am very, very happy with the results of this telescope. This just makes it all the much more enjoyable to go out and look at the cosmos. I have some really good objects I am planning on capturing just as quick as I can. Unfortunately, tonight is not going to happen because it is completely overcast. It is blowing at 25 to 30 miles an hour. The beginning of spring is conspiring against my aspirations, and I'm deeply mortally offended of the gods for not clearing up the weather so that I can use my tool to help us understand the cosmos better and to see where some aliens have come from. Let me tell you a quick story about this nebula. And this is hard to believe. And unfortunately, I didn't center it. and it didn't center it. I was supposed to center it. I assumed it was going to center this nebula, but it didn't. Darn it. So I kind of muffed up there. So I cut off the right side of the nebula. Didn't mean to, but anyway, this thing is 25 light years wide. Now, a light year is the distance that light travels in 1 year. So that is approximately 5.89 trillion miles. They round that up to 6 trillion for ease of giving a general distance in a light year. 6 trillion miles. Multiply that by 25 and you have 150 trillion miles to travel from one side of this nebula to the other. It is inconceivable, the length of that distance, and yet we can see it just like this in our sky. It looks just like a star with the naked eye in our sky. That's how big the cosmos is. It would take hundreds of billions of years for us to travel just across that single nebula right there, that one. We couldn't put a mere pinprick of a dot of light there that would represent our solar system in size. Every star you see there is vastly larger than the solar system, to give you a description of the incredible size of that nebula. So anyway, it's a lot of fun to play with these things. And so now let's get on to the main topic. Just to understand, much more is on the way. I was an hour and a half doing that. It took it a few minutes to set up, to calibrate horizontally, to make sure that it was able to enhance all the pictures. All of that it does automatically. There's no handwork with this thing. That's why the C-Star S50 is so superb for beginning astrophotographers such as myself. And it's a boatload of fun. It's very pleasant. I was able to sit in my car for 20 minutes with the heater on while this thing did all the work. I don't have to stand out there in the cold all the time anymore, which is really pleasant. So I run across a question online about the aliens. Why are the aliens visiting this Earth, but are they not communicating with us? Now, the cool thing about this question is this is asked, as we all know, still by a lot of people. And someone gathered a series of answers, and I've been reading through these answers all weekend. And some of them are profoundly insightful. Some of them are just whimsical and funny. I laughed like crazy. Others are entirely skeptical. Other answers are entirely plausible. Some answers are downright sarcastic. Most of the answers were very thoughtful. About the fourth or fifth answer, when I was reading through it after reading about a dozen of these, about the fourth or fifth one where I said, wow, I didn't think of it that way again. Wow, that's a good connection there that I had not thought of before. That's when it dawned on me, you know what? I'm going to share this with my live audience, because we believers in the UFOs, and I'm pointing to me, there's a tendency to kind of get narrow with our particular view. We have what we have mentally constructed to be a so-called reality of not only of the nature of the UFOs, but of the nature, the way, the manner in which they will communicate with us if they do, etc. And we kind of get a little narrow. And I say we, meaning me, right? That's what these answers are so wonderful about. They give me a couple of views that I go, oh my goodness, I had never looked at it that way before. Another thing that is so interesting, is there is one particular answer that the gentleman is entirely 100% positive that he and he alone has the answer, and it's the only correct answer. And we need heed his view because he has discovered the truth. And scientifically, what he says is complete baloney. I even asked ChatGPT to give me a response. Yes, I turn to ChatGPT sometimes to analyze various logical or philosophical or scientific and even mathematical issues that people make claims on. And I find ChatGPT is extremely helpful, not in giving me a final true answer. That's not the point of ChatGPT. It still has a long way to go. I've got the 4.0 version. I hear the 5.0 is right around the corner if it's not here already. And I hear there's a Chat GPT Pro that you can pay $200 a month for, and it is magnificently beyond what I've got in the free version. I'm not going to go pay $200 for an AI right now. I'm not in the mood. I don't have the kind of money. I put my money on a much better investment, this telescope. So, but the Chat GPT explained why this explanation is so silly. When it comes to this subject of UFOs, of aliens, communication, is it evil? Is it good? Do we have a chance? Are they here to completely destroy us? Are they going to enslave us as the ancient Anunnaki did, etc.? When people begin to put their various types and kinds of interpretations into this, it is almost, some people, it is almost as if they can just say whatever they want. Science be damned, truth be damned, philosophical consistency be damned. It doesn't matter. They can just make up any crock and bull story they want to, and people are going to believe it. I'm going to expose one of those who answered this tonight. And if I offended the guy, that's too bad. Chat GPT is free. Before you make ridiculously stupid, non-scientific answers, perhaps it might help if you did just a little bit of double checking on your claims of how physics actually does work instead of just spouting a fantasy nonsense bunch of hooey. That would be my advice. So let's get on with it from there. I want to, let me see if I can share the screen. I want to share the screen. Yeah, I will do that. This is a very, very good. Okay, let me double check and make sure that, yeah, that's pretty good. You guys can see that. All right, right? Yeah, I see you guys are talking about Chat GPT, and that's a good thing. Okay, so, yeah. Here's the question. Hold on, I got to get a drink of water to wet my whistle. Why are the aliens flying around Earth not communicating? Why are they here? Or are not communicating why they are here? So you notice the presumption here. If aliens are going to fly around Earth, they have to answer to us because we are the only important species on this planet that's worth talking to, right? This answer, William Thornton, 5 reasons related to a named report from about 65 years ago. This report we also more or less adhere to. Only in the last 20 years or so have officials reduced, quote, making fun, unquote, and or discrediting people who report the UFOs, UAPs. So although I found it easy and fun to take part in discrediting people who think they've seen UFOs, most occurrences, about 85%, give or take, of the UFO reports are either explainable or they're directly false. So even if something is not identifiable as human-made, does not mean it came from another star system. Now, quite frankly, I entirely agree with that. It's just like this Giza pyramid thing that they've brought up. There's a few videos out on a few YouTube videos now where they have done some ground penetrating radar underneath the Great Pyramid of Giza. And 6 feet under the ground is where this begins. They have found in the limestone gigantic pillars, 8 of them to be exact, under the Great Pyramid. And they go way down. I'm not talking 6, 12, 18, 24, 36, or 48 feet. We're talking very gigantic pillars, very, very deep. And could this be the ancient Hall of Records? Is one of the big whoop-de-doos about it. It's like when they found the different chambers, a small chamber and a large chamber within the Sphinx itself. And there's that secret entrance in the backside of the Sphinx where you go down, and they, of course, forbid it. They'll bust your butt if you try to get in there. And videos have been, snuck out and put out on YouTube, and they're showing the inside of the Sphinx. It's the same principle, but this whole idea about the Giza pyramids and the Hall of Records, etc., nothing's been found yet, but there's always some new information coming out that we think is so very important. And we say we couldn't have built the Great Pyramid the way it's built, therefore aliens. No, that's not the default position to go to. Just because we don't have a way of describing how the pyramids were built is not proof automatically that you default to the aliens did it. Now, in that respect, and I disagree with his whole approach to this subject, however, in that respect, Neil deGrasse Tyson has a good point. You don't just scream aliens as if that solves it, right? So, additionally, the scientific community, especially even more so than religious churches and organizations, considers UFO-related subjects fringe at best. If you're a professional scientist, your credibility can still suffer if you seriously pursue UFO studies. That is changing somewhat, I would add. And that's a good thing, I believe, because I agree with Gary Nolan. No science idea should just instantly be swept off the table because you think it's absurd. Science prospers and progresses through the absurd. You think I'm kidding? Just go look up something on the quantum physics. That is positively the most absurd thing we've ever discovered. And yet it's the most validated, verified aspect of physics. And it's completely kooky, weird, blitzoid lunatic. But it's real. So you have that angle. Radio telescopes spend 75% of the time doing real scientific radio astronomy, not searching for stupid ET signals or LGMs, little green men. With scientific backing and reality of what happens to broadcast signals over interstellar distances. Now, I strongly believe SETI is a big, laughable waste of time and resources. In fact, if interested in why SETI is a waste of time and why Enrique Fermi was a bit overpresumptuous on asking, where are all the interstellar aliens, read here. And there's an article here by William Thornton regarding the Fermi paradox and SETI. I won't get into that. It's pretty long. I read it yesterday, and it's pretty good, though. If you get a chance, you have a look at it. The advent military pilots now being encouraged to report UFOs is still relatively new. they would purposely not report in most cases from the 1960s until the late 1990s. Now, this is important because of the stigma of the being kicked out of the armed forces, the airport, or the airport, the Air Force, or the Army, or the Navy, if you even said you saw something. So nobody was going to say anything, right? That makes sense. But that's beginning to change as well. Now, the Air Force and the Navy have been seeing really odd situations in the skies now during the length of my lifetime from the 1960s. It actually goes back way earlier than that. Ever since we made airplanes, 1900s on, but we haven't heard of any of that. So we today think that it's a relatively new thing that the pilots are all of a sudden starting to see these things. No, they've seen them all along. It's just that they are now finally being able to begin to report them. And why? Because the UFOs, for lack of a better description, the UAPs, fly so close to the Navy pilots and the Air Force pilots that it endangers their lives. And the pilots began to rebel. They said, bullshit, I'm not going up there in that jet again until we figure out how to clear our skies. It's too dangerous. You're going 600 miles an hour. You can't hardly hit an insect without damaging your jet. You think I'm bluffing? You hit a bird and it could kill you. It could certainly wipe out your $180 million craft, right? So it gets to the point to where it's so serious that someone has to do something about it. Well, it's been reported like this for years and years and years, and we're finally remembering it. Thank you, Andrew Hessing. Yeah, that's interesting. Remember Star Trek 4, the probe wasn't trying to talk to the humans. It was talking to the whales. And the other most intelligent part of life on Earth may not be we humans, but the dolphins, you know. Yeah, that's true, Andrew Hessing. Thank you again for your contribution. Appreciate your support. While I disagree with the 85%, that's all good. I've heard as high as 95. I've heard as high as 98. So we honestly just don't know. But we know the vast preponderance of materials that we're seeing are man-made or else unexplained. But that doesn't necessarily mean they're alien, as all that gentleman was attempting to say, right? I remember the Tedescos and many others showing objects that seem to be under intelligent control. And I entirely agree with you. Thank you for bringing that up. Absolutely. Thank you, Andrew. Appreciate that. Appreciate the support and the super chat. Yeah, UFO Ghostbusters, got to say hi to you. They are also down there in Australia videoing UFOs. He has a lot of cameras and all. So hello, and thank you for being on the show tonight. Okay, let's get back to this next question. So that's pretty much what he says. And the next question after this is there a secret to auto insurance that will save you money? No, they intersperse these commercial questions with the main subject, which is the UFOs. We'll skip that for now. Noel Ellis. Now, this gentleman has a BA PG diploma from University of Otago, graduated 1983. He answers it this way. If the aliens are here, why aren't they talking to us? This is an extremely important question. For those who believe that aliens are visiting Earth, then what is the purpose of this? There is no evidence of advanced life anywhere in our solar system. In that, I would technically agree. Yes, there's no evidence yet that we found. We've landed probes on Venus where they've lasted minutes before closing down due to the heat and harsh sulfuric acid. This is true. I remember reading about that and hearing about that. There are explorers on Mars which have not found any signs of plants or animals. If life existed on Mars, it is under a rock. That leaves gaseous giants like Jupiter and Saturn. No chance of life there. And then Cora says, access this answer and support the author as a Cora subscriber. And they want me to subscribe, so I'm going to skip that for now. I hate it when they do that to me. The lack of communication from extraterrestrials visiting Earth could be due to a multitude of factors, including technological limitations, cultural differences, or even the deliberately choice to avoid contact. I agree. Okay. Let's go to the next question answered by Bruce Crosby. He's a former biology teacher, 2000 to 2020. So, okay, here's a gentleman who is informed, at least in the biology. It's a related question. Why do aliens never come down to Earth and announce themselves? All right, that's a legit question. Why doesn't that happen? It's a fun question. I like his approach. It is a fun question. We need to be genuinely curious instead of just so dismissive. Let's explore this and mull it over. However, false premise number one, how do you know they haven't come down to Earth and announced themselves? Excuse me. Consider that the universe is 12 billion years old plus. Earth is at least 4 billion years. Humans have only been here 100,000 years. Dinosaurs disappeared 65 million years ago and roamed over the Earth for 100 million years. So our time on Earth as humans is just a tiny blip during the entire history of when aliens could have visited. I've got to go turn down my heat, dang it. I always forget to do that. It's my thing. So additionally, if only have been a few hundred years in which we would have understood that visitors would have been aliens, so we cannot really say that it's never happened. I agree. There's no way to scientifically prove it's never happened. We can just say in some instances, well, Neil deGrasse Tyson can say, well, I've never been visited by aliens, and I'm a very important astronomer. Therefore, aliens don't exist. I hope you can see the logical fallacy if Tyson was to take that route. He hasn't. I'm just using that as an illustration. They may have dropped by, saw the planet infested with big reptiles, and then dropped a big rock on them to clear the place out. The meteorite that killed the dinosaurs, right? So there's another second false premise that he talks about, and that is that the aliens would be interested in us. Now, here we go. People often assume aliens would either be physically similar, bipedal, like we are humans, we walk on two legs, or psychologically similar to us. And this is kind of an assumption that I used to hold, and now I'm kind of coming out of this. In other words, that the aliens would share the same motivations as we humans. Is that really a valid premise, though, or just wishful thinking? Let's face it, we don't know very much at all about the aliens as a whole. The reality is, given a completely different planet of origin, they could come from a thick, almost liquid atmosphere, be based on completely different physical needs and requirements, and that if they lived on a completely different physical scale, in other words, huge like the redwoods, or tiny and microscopic. See, there is no real reason to believe or expect that they would be like us, interested in us, or motivated in the same way we are. We could simply be viewed with complete indifference, or they could just view us as one of the many organisms living on our planet. Or maybe after viewing us, they found us something better to be avoided. Would you announce yourself to a bunch of highly aggressive organisms armed with nuclear weapons that are currently attacking and killing each other all over the planet? A very valid point. If you could interpret our broadcasts, would you come here after watching Night of the Living Dead or SVU or Honey Boo Boo? If you were intelligent enough to get here and could look down on us from a non-involved, completely unbiased perspective, why would you get involved if you didn't need something? Interesting take. I have to confess that is that's a pretty good approach to what that does. Is it exposes maybe it's more of a hope that, well, we certainly feel that we are pretty important. Okay. But that does not translate out into the cosmos that we're aware of. See, it's things like this that we have to keep that in mind. So let's go on to this next answer, which I thought was very, very fun. I see someone mentioning Isaac Asimov. Alex Smith used to be one of my favorite authors. Fun stuff. Alex Beale. Now, this is the gentleman that I took exceptional issue with because of his really bad understanding of how physics and science really work. And yet he's so confident. I mean, this man is the one to listen to, period. He has it all figured out. And haven't we all run into someone like this, right? So the related question, if aliens are out there, why aren't they contacting us? It is because we fired upon them at great length without succeeding whatsoever. As the extraterrestrial vehicle in mention was witnessed off of our West Coast during the Second World War by the U.S. Army, did not one soldier stop firing. The spacecraft remained in the path of trajectory the entire time and did not return fire. A couple of years later in Roswell, New Mexico, did we find a Frisbee? Extraterrestrial vehicles do not crash. Well, that's entirely false. Just because they're extraterrestrial doesn't mean they don't crash. That's an assumption. We have no weapons of use, evidently. Yes, we really do. We've got evidence from Corso that we actually do have electric magnetic pulse guns that give very, very high powerful bursts that can physically take down these aircraft. So that's a false statement too. The enactment one has only one logical deduction. The people of Earth are hostile. Unfortunately, he's right there. Observe the world in which we live. It is apparent why they do not land and greet us, though they did a little more than try, as I'm putting forth the same effort, explaining this over and over and over again. What we recovered in Roswell, New Mexico, should have been shared. Again, I think I agree with him. It was instead marketed and militarized. Yes, they militarize everything. That's why, see, and this is an important point that I will emphasize. Oh, I thought I had this on that you could read along with me. This is why we can't let the military being the ones dictating the reality of the aliens and the extraterrestrials and stuff, because they only think in one direction. How can we kill? And that's not the way we want to be. Not in our society. We can't just think of kill, kill, kill and be dominant all the time. That doesn't work. Cooperation and friendship is vastly superior to death and enslaving everyone else. You wouldn't have to kill if you weren't such assholes and made enemies all the time. Wouldn't it be grand to live life with friends, enjoying the earth together? Well, you can't do that if you enslave people, steal their women, rape their women, and keep their food from them, you know? Just in all the name, in the sense of, I am superior. Well, why the hell do you have to feel superior? How about cooperating in love? You know, the Jesus syndrome we need to all begin to practice. Not necessarily, if you don't want to believe in it, that's fine. I'm not saying you're wrong if you don't believe in Jesus. I'm saying he had it right. Love one another. But the military can't think in that manner. That's why we don't want them being the dominant voice in this subject. So I agree with him on that point. Let's keep going. Here's where he makes some real boo-boos. So every hypothetical outcome for what could be reverse engineered from this extraterrestrial vehicle was already known. He can't possibly know that. The same concept of owning a box of Legos and being able to build multiple constructs from the materials supplied. What we discovered should have gotten us away from the combustible engine and nuclear energy, as well as something more urgent. Okay, well, during and here he really goes off the rails. I don't understand this at all. During a pole shift, Earth will be without its magnetic field, leaving us susceptible to solar flare. This is a natural occurrence and has already been solved. And I asked about that. I said, all right. And well, he says the pyramids of Giza are not mausoleums. They are gigantic lightning rod. Instead of the entire world being scorched, the pyramids focus the solar flare into one concentrated ring around the Earth, the 33rd latitude. He has absolutely no way of understanding that. But here's the thing that gets me. I asked ChatGPT, the reason all matter connects to matter is Earth's magnetic field. I haven't gotten to that part. The pole shifts. During a pole shift, we lose the magnetic field entirely. Not only does everything scorch, what remains falls into the earth. Irrefutably, this is what happened to the dinosaurs, this guy says. Well, this statement is not accurate scientifically. Let's break it down. During a pole shift, we lose the magnetic field entirely. That's partly true, but it's entirely misleading. The Earth's magnetic poles have reversed many times in history, and they weaken, but this is a process called geomagnetic reversal, but the magnetism never entirely disappears. He's wrong to say it that way. There's no evidence that the field drops to zero or is absent for any significant length of time. So while it's true that the field can weaken, because it's being reversed, it doesn't entirely disappear. We don't lose it entirely. And then he goes on to say, not only does everything scorch, this is completely false. I have no idea where he got this from. There's no evidence that geomagnetic reversals cause scorching or extreme surface heating. The sun's radiation is more intense when the magnetic field is weaker. Of course, that makes sense. But the atmosphere itself still protects us. There's no mass burning or scorching happening during past known reversals. And then he says, whatever is not scorched, what remains, falls into the earth. Well, this is false and nonsensical. This sounds more like a line from science fiction. There's no mechanism by which things would fall into the earth due to a magnetic pole shift. Magnetic fields don't affect gravity, and they also don't cause matter to collapse into the planet. And when he says irrefutably, this is what happened to the dinosaurs, this is definitely false. We understand now that the dinosaurs went extinct due to a massive asteroid impact. This did cause global climate changes, of course. It did cause darkness from debris in the atmosphere, and it did cause a collapse of ecosystems without question. But there's no solid evidence that a geomagnetic pole shift caused their extinction. So, this statement is full of scientific inaccuracies and unsupported claims. While Earth's magnetic field does shift over time, we may be in the middle of the shift right now. There's some scientists who are beginning to say that. The magnetic pole is definitely moving around up there in the north and down in the south right now, for sure. We don't know if it's completely shifting yet, but it's moving. It's a slow and natural process. It's not responsible for apocalyptic events or dinosaur extinction. That all is simply false. So let's keep going to what this gentleman says next. The reason all matter connects to matter is Earth's magnetic field. And I instantly raised my eyebrows. I said, wow, I've never heard that before. I don't think that's true. Why do we not walk through walls, fall through floors, or the ground itself? It's because of Earth's magnetic field. And this is where he says, during a pole shift, we lose the magnetic field entirely. But what about that statement? I simply don't believe it. I asked ChatGPT, is this an accurate statement? It says, heavens no, from a scientific perspective. Here's the breakdown. The reason all matter connects to matter is Earth's magnetic field. Why this is wrong. Matter interacts with matter, not because of Earth's magnetic field. The reason you don't walk through walls or fall through the floor is due to electromagnetic forces at the atomic level, not due to the Earth's magnetic field. What's actually happening? Why don't we fall through the floor or walk through walls? Atoms are made of electrons, which have negative charges. When the atoms in your body get close to the atoms in a wall or on the ground, the electrons repel each other due to electromagnetic force. This repulsion creates the sensation of solidity. So you don't fall through the floor because of electromagnetic repulsion, not gravity or the magnetic field. What Earth's magnetic field actually does is it protects the Earth from solar flares, the solar wind, and cosmic radiation. It influences the movement of charged particles, like in the aurora borealis. It has almost no effect on solid matter, like people or buildings, in terms of holding things together or preventing you from falling through stuff. So, in short, you don't fall through the floor because of the electromagnetic force between atoms. Earth's magnetic field protects us from space radiation, but it doesn't hold matter together. So that's actually a really important point. I thought it was quite interesting how this gentleman spoke so confidently and was trying to convince us that he scientifically has figured it all out, when he scientifically is so wrong he's not even wrong. But his confidence is what really kind of surprised me about this. So the next question, let me go back to showing you the questions. Why haven't aliens contacted us yet? This is by Kevin Stern, this answer. And I thought this was fair. Okay, so first, let's imagine that we're in the future and we just mastered space travel. The universe is ours to travel at will. Man, I would love it if that day would hurry up so that I can do this. I really would. As you go off exploring, you'll find a happy little planet being environmentally destroyed. You see the dominant life form and their killers for what you believe, what you look like, who you like to mate with, wearing brown shoes. They rape, they pillage, they encroach on each other's lands, they annex whole countries, they enslave each other. They force their beliefs on each other, they steal from each other, they lie to each other. The rich see the poor as mere tools to make even more money. Now watch their media. The majority of alien encounters show them fighting evil by default, invaders, and winning. By killing, not trying to make peace, no truces or treaties. The whole idea is kill the aliens. Kill anything that doesn't look like us, think like us, or smell like us, or vote like us. Kill everything. Everything about this species says evil. That they'll do the same to you, then insist the universal consciousness requires them to kill you as an alien. That they are somehow meant to have dominion over all. Ask yourself, will you make first contact with this species, or will you set up some warning beacon and warp away ASAP? Now ask yourself, why would any alien do anything different with us? Pretty profound, brutally straightforward, of course. But, and this is one of those things that, as a species, we really don't like being told the truth about what we're really like. We're just a bunch of pricks and people who just don't give a flying flip about anything except ourselves. We're very selfish, greedy, etc. We're very cruel. We're very mean. And we have no compunction at all against going to war. We will go to war on the most stupid reasons because someone said something or someone believes something different than we do. We go to war over that ridiculous view. We don't like being told that, but that's who we are. So why in the hell would the aliens give a flip about us? That's a pretty good point, in my opinion. Shame on us for being the way we are. Do we have a chance to change ourselves? I don't know. I don't see a lot of convincing evidence that we do. I see a lot of rancor, argument, hate, war, bloodshed, killing, betrayals going on a worldwide scale every day in the news. I see very little happy, pleasant, getting along, cooperating, and advancing forward in our intellectual and spiritual capacities as a human species. I'm just not seeing that. So, and there's one word that none of us like because we already think we're good, and it's everyone else who has to repent. And that might be where the problem lies. We already think we're there and nobody else is. Well, if everyone has that attitude, ain't nobody going to get along with anybody, So just throwing that out there. Okay, so this next answer, Paul Conway, why aliens never come down to Earth and announce themselves? Well, when people think of aliens visiting, they imagine a flying saucer landing on the White House lawn and the lead alien coming down the steps saying, "Take me to your leader." Well, think of that in the 2020 context. The assumption is that the aliens will be introduced to this world's great and good. For example, in the 1950s, they might have wanted to meet with Einstein or Richard Feynman, but within our species, such individuals are extremely rare. And the aliens could instead look at the broad cross section of humanity, mired in ignorance and mischievous petty squabbles and despair. As we are simply part of Earth's biosphere, I would expect aliens would look at the biosphere as a whole and show us as individuals as little interest as we show to ants in an anthill. And I know there are some UFO scholars who really do not like this analogy, but I think it has some truth to it. So what is the point of communicating with an individual ant or termite? None at all. It is collective behavior that dictates what happens to the biosphere. Collective behavior is an emergent property impossible to predict from the behavior of an individual of that society. So we are prisoners of our own collective behavior, and that collective entity that is humanity has an intelligence and goals that are at odds with us as individuals, just as we are also driven from below by the collective behavior of our genes and body chemistry, so we are hostages to fortune and failure. What could aliens possibly want to tell us or hear about from us? Would we gift advanced technology to the inhabitants of an anthill? Would we value their opinion on anything? Would we want to recite the list of prime numbers together? It's kind of a dig at Carl Sagan, isn't it? Imagine if there were ants wondering why aliens never visited as they walk up the boot of a visiting human. That would be laughable to us, just as we may be laughable to aliens. We have such a high opinion of ourselves. All right, that's one interpretation. Here's another one by Zachary Fisher. Do aliens really visit Earth? Now, that's kind of an interesting view. Do aliens exist? It's an almost mathematical certainty that there is life elsewhere in the cosmos. So scientists figure most stars have planets around them. There are 100 billion stars just in our galaxy. There are an estimated 100 billion galaxies in the observable universe. Not the whole thing, just what we can see of it. That means there are approximately 1 times 10 to the 22nd stars in the observable universe, and that number is literally unimaginable. We have nothing to compare to it. Statistically speaking, there must be other life out there, possibly even life far advanced beyond our own. That's the way science has come to understand this, thanks to us putting out more and more and better telescopes out there, right? We have now discovered the Boots void, which terrifies the hell out of scientists and astronomers for good reason. I'll get into that one of these days. Now, think what the Earth is and where it sits. We are a small, resource-poor, boring world orbiting a small G-type dwarf star in a fairly backwater part of the Milky Way galaxy, which in and of itself is pretty unspectacular as far as galaxies go. Well, that's pretty pessimistic. I think he's just, I don't go that way. In fact, it's fairly average. There's nothing wrong with fairly average. That has no, see, this is his subjectivity. Next, assume distances between stars are enormous, and they are. Just like I showed you, the Orion Nebula, that thing is 25 light years across, and that's just one nebula of many hundreds of thousands out there. It's just amazing. So enormous, they aren't measured in miles, they're measured in light years. 5.878 trillion miles. The nearest star is Proxima Centauri. That's about 4 light years away. A spacecraft traveling the speed of light will take 4 years to get there, is what that means. Travel at light speed is impossible, of course, because of E equals mc squared. So let's say that on the assumption an alien race did a life hack and found a way around E equals mc squared, they did travel interstellar distances in reasonable amount of time. Why would they come here? What could they possibly want with Earth? It's resource poor. It's dry. It's dry. 3/4 of it's water. 3/4 of it's ocean. So you can see this gentleman's bias also, right? It's populated with primitive apes bent on destroying themselves. Unfortunately, he's correct there. Along with lots and lots of nasty diseases the aliens will have no immunity to. That's an interesting point. I never quite looked at it that way. And yet that's the famous Mars movie, the remake of, what's his heads? There are places throughout our solar system where any resource they could possibly need could not be had in far greater quantity and far easier than Earth. Need water? Europa. A Galilean moon has more water than the entire Earth has on its surface. Need hydrogen? 2 giant planets are made up almost exclusively of hydrogen. Need precious metals? A single asteroid can contain as much or more gold than has been mined and processed in the entirety of human civilization. Okay, so they don't need anything from Earth. Maybe they want to meet us, perhaps? Okay, sure. Why all the sneaking around and wearing dead people's skin? Why all the kinky butt stuff and cattle mutilations? Kind of seems more like an LSD-fueled fantasy than an existential threat to humanity to me. So, kind of a skeptical approach. Kind of interesting. Let's see what Terrence Bentley says. How come aliens from another planet have never contacted anyone on Earth? There's no point in trying to answer this question without first asking another one. And that is, why would they? What would make it worthwhile for them? Even thinking in these terms shows us to be rather ludicrously planet and species centric. Our galaxy, let alone our universe, is a very, very big place. In fact, it's almost unimaginably immense. And our solar system, let alone our Earth, is but an indescribably minute dot within it all. And again, he's not kidding. In this Orion Nebula, every one of the stars or dots of light there, we couldn't represent our entire solar system with a dot as big as any of those we see here, because the light from one side to the other is 25 light years in distance, hundreds of trillions of miles. It's inconceivable. It is inconceivable. So that's just one of the nebula. Now, this is my first I've taken with my telescope. For those who came late, I took this picture with my telescope. It's the very first one I've taken. But other nebula that I'll show you later on, some of them are 100 light years wide. It just blows you away. They're 5 times larger than this one. You can't conceive of it. So let's get back to this guy's point. If they have developed the kind of technology necessary for traveling these staggeringly huge interstellar distances from their place to ours, we have to assume that they would also be capable of remotely viewing, surveying, and reconnoitering a massive range of possible destinations within their own neighborhood in the cosmic vastness. Now, that makes sense. Why would they travel so far just to get to a little bit of nothing here, us, right? A significant percentage of these would be likely to harbor some form of sentient life. What are the chances of them picking us out from among the inestimable billions of potential places to visit, many others of which would in all probability be closer to them? And this is one of those points where I went, oh, wow, yeah, that to me seemed pretty sensible, given that we're dealing with almost infinite numbers. Even if they did happen by some miracle to notice us, what would impel them to decide that we in particular were worth bothering to meet and greet? We're really not that interesting. We have no good reason to regard ourselves as in any way special. The probability is that any civilization advanced enough to accomplish interstellar travel would find us excruciatingly primitive and dull, and an inflated sense of self-importance and an additional repellent wrapping of belligerence. From their perspective, from the alien point of view, trying to have a meaningful dialogue with us would probably be about as rewarding as our current brightest scientific minds attempting to discuss cosmology with a cockroach or aesthetics with a dung beetle. Ouch. Ooh, that's hard. They'd surely be able to find massively more appealing hookups on innumerable other worlds. That's really quite fascinating. The simple truth is that we humans constitute a pretty unappealing sort of close encounter for anyone else. And yes, I get it. Our religions here on this earth make us want to feel special by saying we have souls. And that is why the aliens are attracted to us. You know, anything to keep us important is what it looks like to non-believers. That doesn't mean we don't have souls. I'm just saying his point here is really quite a profound one. Very interesting to try to beat some humility into us, which none of us really like having done to us. So, you know, including me. So Jabarson Jabomini. Why do aliens never come down to Earth and announce themselves? Don't I love this question? Personally, I never tried to go into an ant colony and declare myself as superior species. I suppose they have sophisticated design, society, and hierarchy, but still never found a reason to go and announce myself. Ah, what a smart aleck. Bobby Blotzer. A related question, well, why would aliens visit Earth in a secretive manner then? Well, we often watch animals surreptitiously in order to ensure the behavior we observe is natural, unaltered by human interaction. All right, a fair point. Interesting analogy, yeah. Extraterrestrials wishing to observe our natural behavior would similarly conceal themselves for the same reason. And another reason is we are dangerous and violent animals. We've been known to kill our own kind over differences in pigmentation, after all. It would be prudent for them to avoid contact with us as we avoid contact with wasps or grizzly bears. And I was thinking of the king of the beasts, lions in Africa, unless you're fully armed. And then the main reason people go there is so that they can do what? Hunt the lions and kill them. Why? To put them in their living rooms as trophies. I mean, we're just brutally superstitious and caveman in our attitude, aren't we? We think the whole point of everybody else's life is for us to kill. That's pathetic. I get these people's skepticism. I really do. I hope they're wrong, but, I'm not convinced they are. That's sad. So, Michael Halapainen, if aliens are out there, why aren't they contacting us? He says, because of space-time. The distances are unfathomable, as is the time scale of the universe. We're not separated only by space, but time. All right, they're too far. By the time their signal traveling the speed of light reaches us, the human race is long since extinct, and all signals of human civilization long ago turned into dust. Also, more likely than not, if we receive a signal from alien civilization, they themselves have long ago turned into dust. Might have been millions of alien civilizations born, thrived, and faded away into oblivion quite close to us, and none of them might not have known each other or others having existed in the past. Now, that's a fascinating point of view. Remember, and, in a way, this is kind of... let's face it, this is kind of hard for us to grasp, to understand. We really aren't that old as a species on this planet. We're only maybe 250,000 years old, 250,000 years. And the Christians say, oh no, we're only 6,000 years old. All right, that even makes my point stronger. So, give a few million years, there's no guarantee we won't be anything but dust. And if the alien civilizations tried to contact us that long ago, there's no evidence they kept existing either. They also might be dust. I think that's fascinating. Okay. Looks like I'm stirring up the chat a little bit. I hope so. It's meant to, What's another answer? Krister Sunderland. If there are aliens, why do they not invade Earth? Well, any advanced alien species would come from at least 4.5 light years away, and probably a lot more. But let's go for the best case, 4.5 light years. So that's the distance light travels. Using our best rocket technology, it takes us over 80,000 years. Using the best rocket technology we can imagine, we could make the journey in 50 years. So if they can get an invasion fleet here in any time for an invasion to be practical, they're ludicrously advanced. Possibly they have access to technology that we can barely imagine. Let's imagine that they have something like an Alcubierre drive. They would have access to or knowledge to make matter with negative energy density, and they would have all their practical energy needs satisfied. Not only that, they would have any other material needs solved too. Well, that's easy when you have practically unlimited energy, sure. You don't need to invade Karuna for steel. You could just grab an asteroid with high iron content. You don't even need to negotiate gravity wells or atmospheres. The same goes for just about any other resource imaginable. Water, pick any moon or gather a lot of planets. Carbon, do the same thing. Hydrogen, get water or suck it up from Jupiter. Rare earths, get asteroids. And you really don't have any need for food. If you can't replicate it on the spot, you can build a huge space farm for way less resources than to invade an alien planet and likely terraform it, because you're alien to the planet and you're probably not suited for its atmosphere or biosphere. And if you go for a planet that you have to terraform anyway, pick an uninhabited planet so you don't have to bother with the natives, and so on. All very interesting points. The point is, if you can traverse the depths of interstellar space with an invasion fleet, you're so advanced that you have no reason to invade a planet. Wow, what a great concept. Every need you might imagine for invading a planet can be easier solved in space with the resources that are there, and they are uncontested. Except perhaps if it is about religion. They always got to get that religious dig in, don't they? And yet, unfortunately, based on our experience, they've got a point, right? Now, here's an interesting idea. Why do aliens come to Earth when they are so advanced? They've reduced their own planet to a barren wasteland and need a new home, and we are in the way. That's according to the War of the Worlds and Independence Day. Their own world has been destroyed, but screw humans. That's the movie The Man of Steel. They crashed and just want to get the hell out. That's from It Came from Outer Space, Super 8. Hunt humans just for fun. That's the Predator movie series. Humans are tasty, bad taste. They came to steal our water, press gang some of us to be cannon fodder. The rest, humans are tasty, especially alive. That's that movie V. It's an attempt to prevent a carnivorous creature eating the population. That's Terror Vision Critter, etc. W.J. Reed, why would aliens visit Earth in a secretive manner? So imagine aliens are coming from a star system where their planet is 10 billion years old. There are plenty of plants and stars this age. Our system's only about 4 billion years old. That means that these people, if they had the same trajectory advancing society and technology, would have a 6 billion year head start on us. Remember, the dinosaurs died of 65 million years ago. Now, also take into consideration that when we knew the life of the Cassini space probe was about to end, we crashed the space probe into Saturn on this slight chance that there might be life on either Enceladus or Titan that we might have an unintended impact on. If Cassini accidentally crashed on one of those moons, we could be a zoological project. People who study animals, insects, viruses, bacteria, etc., they prefer to be able to study their subjects in an environment that was not altered by the people doing the study. Oh, that's a pristine environment, if at all possible. Your hypothesized aliens would have more to learn by staying hidden and watching us. There is also the likelihood that they are a level 5 life form. What's he mean by that? Do we walk over to anthills and introduce ourselves and try to give them technology, medicine, and democracy? No, we don't do that with any other animal species. We don't do that with the chimpanzees and monkeys. We enslave them and stick them in zoos and gawk at them all day and feed them a horrible diet and keep them from being in their own natural environment. Extraterrestrial intelligence may look upon us as not much further advanced than an anthill in comparison to where they are and their existence. Us humans love to think we are all important, that we are the pinnacle of intelligence and development, and God, I hope that's wrong. How too depressing would it be to find out that humans are as good as it gets anywhere in this universe? Wow, what a point, right? I mean, if this is the pinnacle, we've been cheated because we're not all that strong. We're not all that smart. We're certainly not kind and loving as a species, etc. Yeah, holy cow. That's amazing. So how long have I been going? Okay, well, I've been going an hour and 15 minutes. I've still got the audience. Thank you for sticking around. You guys have probably been off having your own conversations. I can't blame you. But I'll be interested in, I'm going to call it good with that. That's enough to get at least a familiarity, a gist of the direction that so many people take on this most fascinating topic that, of course, as of yet, we genuinely don't have any final answers. We're all just fishing, right? We're all just still trying to figure all this stuff out. We're trying to say, well, gee, where do I, the backyard professor, fit in the scheme with the aliens if they're really real? We don't even know if they're really real yet. Some of us, most of us, many of us. So it's a fascinating conundrum. It's very enjoyable to read other people's views, not in order to get them to align to our belief or to have to feel like we have to agree with their view, but to really realize that it is criminal wrong to insist on silencing all other points of view just because they differ from yours. And yet that's what we see happening in our world today, all over the world, here in our American democracy, in Israel, in Russia and Ukraine, in Mexico, all over the world. People do not appreciate diversity and intelligence. We insist on making everyone walk lockstep with our ideas, or you're not good enough to live. And we need to change that, or we won't even make it to the first million years as a species, because we've militarized our intelligence to where we can make weapons that will kill someone else simply because they believe something different. Now, how goddamn short-sighted, stupid is that attitude? And yet it's all over the world. We have the proof. Just watch the news. It's astonishing. So anyway, thanks for watching the Backyard Professor live video. I will go out and do some video UFO hunting with my binoculars and my C-Star S50, get some good photographs. I will continue looking into this UFO issue and sharing new news, new updates in developments, ideas. If a new book comes out and I decide it's worth buying, I'll review it, etc. I do have several websites and YouTube videos that so many of you have told me about, and I do appreciate that. It's good to have input on, hey, dude, there's something over here that's worth looking at, or hey, man, check that woman out. She's got a real good idea on UFOs, and I'm trying to do that, and I will be reviewing them also. So, I mean, there's a lot going on, even though it does have the appearance of having slowed down, and that there's not a lot going on. That's not true. A lot is going on. So remember, keep your eyes on the sky, keep studying, keep learning, keep coming back, hit the like and subscribe, share this channel with as many people as you feel like would benefit from it, and even those who you think would disagree with it. Because we've got to learn that democracy and dialogue is not a crime, that dictatorship and the loss of our freedom of speech, that is what is immoral. We need all voices. So let's practice having all voices. That's my hope and prayer. I love y'all, but I got to go. You guys have a great evening. I'll catch up to you just as soon as I can. Appreciate all your support.